Guys, this week, the U.S. court will be hearing a challenge over Prince Harry's visa. We've been talking about this deportation, but it might actually happen. We got Christopher Melcher here to break it down. Welcome to Popcorn Planet. I am Andy Signore, and yes, we previously talked about this with the amazing black belt barrister. You guys can go check out that video. I'll put it at the end. You'll get his insight too, but I wanted to do an update with Christopher, obviously a U.S. attorney, to get his thoughts, because yes, we saw this break over the weekend. There is a hearing. An actual judge will be hearing this Tuesday, June 6th, federal judge in the U.S. District Court of D.C. It will be held in front of this judge. For those of you guys who are unaware what we're talking about here, the Heritage Foundation is suing the government, as it says here, to find out if it acted according to procedure when it granted the Duke of Sussex, Prince Harry, a U.S. visa. Under U.S. immigration law, evidence of past drug use can be grounds to reject the application. And in fact, this is the application in question, as we talked about previously. We're going to break it down. Christopher, welcome back to the show. Always a pleasure to have you. Are you surprised by this case by the Heritage Foundation? Let's start there. What are your reactions to this case in general?
Well, it's interesting, and Harry brought this on really himself, because in his book, Spare, he went through some history of drug usage when he was younger, some marijuana, cocaine, and magic mushrooms or hallucinogenic mushrooms, and said that he experimented with these things in the past. Well, to the extent that he did that in England, I would imagine that was a crime. To possess or maybe be under the influence of those drugs, and particularly the magic mushrooms or cocaine. And look, I mean, it's experimental recreational drug use is what he's describing. But when you apply for a U.S. visa, our laws state that we have the right to exclude somebody from the country if they are a drug addict, or they have a conviction for a drug offense, neither of which apply here. His recreational use does not make him a drug addict, okay? And then he suffered no conviction for those offenses. But there's a third category that says that if he has violated the laws of another country on controlled substances, that could be a basis. And so that's what Heritage Foundation, this conservative think tank, is going after. They're saying, I want Harry's answers to this questionnaire to see if he disclosed it or not. We don't know. We haven't seen this. So maybe he did put in there, passages from the book, and it's like, yeah, this is, what happened. Or maybe he said no. And so I think Heritage Foundation suspects that he said no, and that he obtained a visa here with a lie, and certainly lying on a visa application could be grounds for expulsion from the country. So that's what they're going for. They went and made a Freedom of Information Act request, which is a federal law which allows for certain government records to be accessed by anyone for any reason upon request. However, under immigration law, these applications are confidential, so I don't believe that they are subject to a FOIA request. So this court hearing is going to happen, and the court will decide whether this is a type of record that can be released. But I got to imagine the government saying we can't release this under immigration law. So that's what's going on. And we could talk more, but.
Well, because that was a good spot there. Like, you agree if he lied on this form, it's problematic, right? But then it's in the government's best interest almost to cover it up and be like, yeah, it doesn't. How do we? Is there a version of this where maybe the truth isn't even revealed, but something could have gone wrong? You think?
Yeah. So I don't think we are ever going to see this application, because I believe it's confidential under law. So my suspicion is that the U.S. District Court judge on Tuesday will say, yeah, we're not going to allow the release of this. Now, the government's in a bind, because if Harry lied, and now we know that he lied about this prior drug usage, which, again, I'm assuming there's some kind of law in England that made it illegal to do what he admitted to doing. If that's the case, and the application says, no, I never violated any country's laws on controlled substances, then the government has to decide, are we going to take action against him to revoke this visa? Are we going to bring him in for an interview to explain why he answered no to that question? And maybe he would just say, hey, here's my explanation. I didn't think that you were asking for that type of information. Here, now I've disclosed it. Okay, fine, it's all done. Or maybe he said yes, and he described truthfully all of his experiences using drugs during younger years. But the government can't disclose that because, again, the records are confidential. So the government can't come out and say, hey, nothing to see here. He told the truth. It can't comment on it. It can just open up an investigation. So I think that's what Heritage Foundation is doing, is trying to push this in the nose of the U.S. government to saying, like, hey, you need to act here to make sure. And I do agree on a larger level that we're all accountable to the same standards. And so there's no special pass for Prince Harry, but also that doesn't mean that he should be subject to scrutiny that you or I would not be subject to, or anyone else visiting our country. So same standard for everybody means he doesn't get a special pass, but also he shouldn't be treated unfairly or differently than anyone else.
Because he's a
and I got to think that everyone else, like, he's not a drug abuser. He's not an addict. He hasn't been convicted. So he honestly answered no to that question.
Yeah, just to break these down, because it's true. When Black Belt was here, I had the same thing. Like, this first question, I feel like that's not the issue. It's this one, right? Have you ever violated or engaged in a conspiracy to violate any law related to controlled substances? In theory, based on what we've learned from his usage in the books, if he didn't answer yes on this, he would have lied, right?
Yeah. Now, again, and this is what we do as defense attorneys is, we really pick apart this question, and it's like, okay, to lie about something is to give inaccurate information knowing that it's false. So Prince Harry's defense would potentially be that, look, I just didn't understand what this question exactly was asking for. I don't understand what the laws of England are about controlled substances. He can argue all that stuff to say, although I gave inaccurate information, it turns out my state of mind was not one to lie. I just didn't understand it. So he could, again, massage his way potentially out of this thing. But again, if I got to think, anyone who's an older person, 40s, 50s or more, who's answering a question like this, are you really thinking about answering, yes, when I was 18, I had a bag of weed with me, and in England, it was illegal to hold weed, and I now have to spill my guts in this little box? I don't know. So again, is this the crime of the century? No.
No, I'm sure if the Heritage Foundation was filling out this box and lied about it, they'd want a slap on the wrist is the reality, right? So I'm with you. It's a tough one. But for those who out there want him to be deported, you are saying there's a chance, it sounds like. There is a small likelihood that, yes, he could have lied on this form, and in theory, they could say, okay, we have to deport him. So it is still a potential sweat for him, no?
It is a very serious thing when anyone fills out a government form, under oath, or is passing it off under penalty of, being prosecuted. This is a, reminder to all of us is, don't just click through those things very easily. And so because there could be consequences. So yes, he's a very smart guy. He's intelligent. He knows that his actions are scrutinized by everybody. So and if he's willing to talk about it in the book, why not put it on the form? So there's some people who are embarrassed by their history and are just like, hey, that was not me anymore. That was 20, 30 years ago. I don't talk about it. Don't feel comfortable, or maybe even just blocked it out of their mind because it's so long ago. This guy's writing a book within the last year boasting about it. So, okay, yeah, maybe you switch me over. Put the stuff on the form. Come on. Put it in the book. Put it on the form. All right, you convinced me.
That was brilliant. I mean, but it's so weird, this whole case with the two of them. I wouldn't care at all if they wouldn't keep thrusting all this privacy out into the world. Like, just shut up already. You're just digging your own graves. It's so weird. But yeah, it's tough because it's like he's just thrown in everyone's face. And dude, you did break the law regarding controlled substances, because I'm trying to go the other way of like, yeah, I could argue if I'm at the airport and I see this, have I violated and engaged in conspiracy to violate it? I might have thought this sounded worse. But the reality is this question's asking, have you ever used illegal substances? And you're either choosing to lie because you don't want to admit it, in which case you're rolling those damn dice, Or, you answered honestly is the two choices. And he didn't answer it honestly is what we assume. So yeah, it sounds like he should be sweating. All right, we turned Christopher. Final thoughts, Christopher.
Yeah. No, it's definitely good to look at this stuff again, because we're all filling out forms like this. So, I think takeaway
Tell the truth.
Tell the truth.
Well, I mean, it's really? So you're telling us if we've ever done cocaine once, we got to fill it out in this form when we go through our
There's no way that if he would have disclosed in there the history that he admitted in the book, that they're going to deny him entry. So for all we know,
so he would have still gotten the visa, you're saying, even if he admitted to some of it.
Of course, there's no way. And again, for all I know, he did put it in there. Again, we I don't want to hold him to a position that he didn't take. So for all I know, he did put it in there. The laws, those immigration laws, are looking for people who are currently addicted to drugs that we do not want to admit into the country, or have serious drug convictions like drug smuggling, something like that. That's what it's there for.
So doing abroad, like, yes, I've done illegal substances in my youth, is probably a safe thing to put in a form just to cover your butt. So the Heritage Foundation doesn't come after you later.
Yeah, because with most things that we see, the lie is worse than the truth. So there's many things that people get caught for lying and get into serious trouble for. But had they just told the truth, they would have been no consequence. So it's one of these things. Yeah, just don't flip through the form. Be careful. That's the takeaway.
Man, that was some genius words just came out of that man's mouth. The lie is always worse than the truth. Couldn't have said it better myself. That is a way to live by. Thank you, Christopher, for that insight. Fascinating. We'll keep you posted on this hearing this week. If you want to learn more, make sure to follow Christopher Melcher, CA_divorce, and make sure you hit that subscribe button. He's got a YouTube channel too. Hit our subscribe buttons, hit our bells, smash the thumbs up. And what do you think? Will they just give him a slap on the wrist? Or did you change like Christopher did? And you're having enough of this, Prince. Tell us your comments down below. We got more for you here on Popcorn Planet. Stay tuned for more.